Welcome to Between Two IVs. I have a special guest today, Morgan. Hello, Morgan.
Hey.
Morgan, do you want to tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Morgan. I've been a nurse for a total of 9 years now. I actually met Dr. Gill originally in my first nursing job in the LBJER. It's an exciting place and county and lots to learn. From there, I moved on and worked in pediatrics and adult ICU, always keeping my passion of emergency medicine and working on the critical care ground truck there with LBJ. And now I've moved into full-time working in flight medicine. I'm a flight nurse and paramedic for PHI Air Medical. And beyond that, my passions really lie in helping first responders with wellness. And so I've expanded to starting my own wellness coaching company and really, giving back to our community in that sense.
I get it. And I love it. Tell me about LBJ. What's your fondest memory from there?
Oh.
Because I've got a ton of my own.
Fond is an interesting word for it, right? Mm-hmm. I really love the people I worked with there. I would say I had some incredible preceptors who taught me the ropes from just learning how to, keep your head above water there to be a badass nurse. And I highly respect all of them. I'm very grateful for the roots in which I came from. Yeah.
LBJ is a great place, very grateful patients. And you really have to be on an island at times. So you work quite a bit. Tell me about this wellness coaching. I see most nurses either do an OnlyFans or do an IV infusion therapy, but you chose wellness coaching. What is that?
So wellness coaching is kind of a new emerging field or a title, but it stems from trying to get people into holistic medicine. And so there's lots of different coaching for this and for that. But I would say wellness coaching really boils down to helping people bring things back to the basics of focusing on your mind, body, and spirit. So getting adequate sleep, eating nutritious, fresh food meals instead of relying on the fast food, really taking care of your body and listening to it instead of trying to cope with drugs, alcohol, whatever vice you want to put in that. Anything can become a coping mechanism when we use it inappropriately. So really, sitting with your emotions and processing those things and then focusing on your health and well-being for longevity. This isn't about CrossFit, no hate to CrossFit, but functional wellness because I want these knees to work when I'm 80.
Right.
So really helping people get back to that and take care of themselves to live their best life.
That's great. I think you hit on a lot of topics that we all struggle with in healthcare, whether you be a ER nurse, ICU nurse, or a street medic or firefighter even. The wellness aspect and the sleep. How do you deal with the sleep, right? You just got off shift yesterday.
Yeah, this morning.
Yeah, we're both running on no sleep. And so you talked a little bit about your sleep hygiene and kind of your routine. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I always try and aim for 8 hours of sleep. Obviously, working 24-hour shifts, it's not possible. And that's an ideal world, right? But we're talking the reality that we live in. So one of the things I find most important is trying to give yourself a buffer to wind down.
Okay.
So instead of expecting yourself to go from running those busy calls to, getting that quality sleep, creating a habit, even a small one that helps you get into that rhythm. So for me, I like to do sleep meditation. So I put on that background music. I really like the imagery ones because it helps me relax my muscles, head to toe, toe to head, that kind of thing. Or even just listing things that I'm grateful for, really just trying to bring my mind back to one central place because normally when you're on calls, trying to catch a nap here and there, you've got a million things on your mind.
How do you deal with that, a million things on your mind? I struggle with the same thing, especially you get a string of tough cases, difficult cases, and you're trying to separate your work life from your home life and turn it off. Sometimes the mind won't let you. And so you try the meditation, and believe me, I've tried the other ways. And so I find myself at times reaching for melatonin and stuff. What are your thoughts on that, supplements to go to sleep?
I don't think supplements are necessarily bad. I would definitely say I don't recommend Benadryl on a regular basis or any of the stronger medications unless you're working with a doctor on those and hopefully using that in a short-term method. Our bodies naturally create melatonin. It happens, it releases right when the sun goes down and our circadian rhythm kicks on. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if you need it from time to time, but we talk about sleep hygiene in that essence. So putting your phone away, starting wind down stuff for you, if that's listening to music, if it's writing, it's reading. Like, everyone has their own interests. I like reading, but you know, the next person might prefer to play guitar or something just that brings you that little bit of joy even, and it allows you to focus on things you enjoy and come back to yourself. It's definitely hard to put away those thoughts that are racing, or you know, you're reliving a call thinking, what could I have done better? And I think journaling is also really good for that. I am not a writer at all. English was one of my least favorite subjects. I still passed, thank goodness. I've actually done research since, so I can write, but it doesn't have to be a novel. It's just about getting those thoughts out of your head and having somewhere else for them to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like what you said about gratitude. You know, coming home and being grateful for the things that you do have, and then kind of goes along the line of this whole podcast with, you know, healing the healers. We have to take time for ourselves and do things that we enjoy, right? Otherwise we get burnt out, and it's easy to live in the calls and the bad calls. And you've seen it, you do flight now, you've done everything. There's some awful calls you've seen, right?
Yeah, I normally don't even tell people that I fly because I don't want that question of, oh, what's the coolest thing you've seen? Because honestly, most of the calls aren't cool. It's somebody's worst day. And I respect that. These are people in their most vulnerable position. They're hurting, they're scared. And so I tend to make jokes with it. But yeah.
Yep, same thing.
It's not always fun and games. It's definitely more romanticized in the movies and shows.
My least favorite question to be asked. One of my least favorite questions. What's your worst call? What's the craziest thing you've seen? And it's so innocuous. It's so innocent when they ask. They want good, gory calls, right? And so I have a couple tucked away, like arms being ripped off, but you really don't want to know our worst calls.
You really don't. You don't want those.
And you're not going to get them, to be honest, because those are very sacred to me. And so if, you know, I do share them with you, you're a special person, right? Mm-hmm.
And it has to be in the right setting, because you have to be ready to unpack that baggage that you carry in your heart as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't help but think, so, you know, I was just out on a call in this area, and we did a termination of resuscitation. And for the viewers that don't know what that is, that's when we do everything that the emergency department do, all the drugs, all the medications, all the shocks, all the ventilation, and sometimes people don't come back. But in the wake of that is a wife, right? Or a loved one, or a husband, or a sibling, or a kid, and we've rocked their world and we leave that. And I think there's a lot more work to be done in our field, in the pre-hospital environment, right? Because you remember, you've worked in the ICU. When we do end-of-life care in the hospital, there's usually a chaplain, a palliative care team. We're able to do it nicely, but here,
there's resources there to support you and that family, yeah.
And I think that's work we could do in the pre-hospital environment. And what made me think of that was exactly those tough calls, because our most recent one was just now. And it wasn't a tough call in the traditional sense. It was someone that most people may have otherwise thought would have died. But, you know, talking with the wife, that's not the same, right? We have devastated that family.
And even when it's not a fatal incident, this person's life is changed entirely. Yeah. I had several calls yesterday that were all surgical cases, and looking at each of those patients, their life is completely changed from what they woke up as that morning or the day before. And so helping them cope with that, their families, like educating them in that process as well, really helping them step through those hard days.
Let me switch gears. How do you, on that note, I have no question that you have tons of compassion, but yet we deal in an industry where compassion fatigue, we set our providers up to be in a place where burnout and compassion fatigue. How do you deal when you're with either a partner or another medic or even another physician, nurse, and they display that lack of compassion? How do you deal with that? Because that's something I struggle with too. Not completely getting angry and just biting their head off and redirecting them to a place of compassion.
That's definitely a tough one. I've working in busy environments and basically working like 2 jobs my whole time because I couldn't pick just one favorite unit to work in. Burnout is extremely real. I have suffered my own fair share of burnout and had to come out the other side, and that's why I want to help other people, fight that compassion fatigue because it's exhausting. I think that it's important to look at every patient as a person. Sure, the case may be cool in terms of science or just medicine as a whole, but like these are people's lives. So taking it back to what if this was my grandma or my brother, my sister, my parent, stuff like that. It really brings it back down to that grounded level that at the end of the day, this could be someone that you love.
Absolutely.
On the other end of it.
And it's going to be us at one point or another.
So true. We all have an end in the future.
Yeah. Last year I had my own ICU experience. I don't know if you know that or if I told you.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. Idiopathic pancreatitis was my diagnosis. That's my first time actually talking about it in public, but yeah, that's why I've got this trach scar, which I like to use it in our cadaver labs when we train EMS because here's your landmarks. But it's a incredibly terrifying experience being on the other end.
Yeah.
And I had the best care possible with very compassionate people. But it's terrifying for the patient, and we're all going to be one day, whether we like it or not, or we're going to know someone on the other side of the bed, right?
Mm-hmm. I've had plenty of family members and loved ones that I've been on this side of it, trying to be compassionate with the medical staff, compassionate with the patient, compassionate with myself, because you have to have grace in all of those situations.
Yeah. And grace is so lost too, right? I see this every day in my professional life, personal life. I wish, what's the word, gracious? I think it's one of the nicest things you can say about someone is being gracious. And that's someone that's gives grace, right? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I have to look it up in the dictionary.
It's okay. We already established English isn't our first.
No hablo.
Yo quiero español.
Yeah, it's like LBJ. ¿Dónde está su dolor?
Hey, I learned a lot of Spanish there. I had some great preceptors teaching me Spanish.
Yeah, you have to know Spanish if you're working there.
Oh, yeah. But I love that population. There's so much family culture with it and just community, actually, that I don't see the same in the environment I work in now. But even little things make a big difference. Like I always try and let family members say goodbye before I leave because you never know outcomes in the future. So just the little things we can do like that or giving them that peace of mind that we've made it to the facility, I just think are big.
You remember COVID?
Can you forget COVID?
Oh, I'd like to.
I would definitely hit a race if that was an option.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to be raw dogging this air again, but it was awful. Watching people die alone was probably my least favorite part of it.
I definitely still carry scars from COVID, and I worked, at that point I was working in the ICU, and it was full-blown COVID ICU. Then I was working in the ER and on the transport team then, and just the amount of loss that we experienced. And sure, we might have seen a darker side of it working in the hospital setting, because now looking back, I know not every person who got COVID died, but it sure felt like it at that point. It was scary.
Yeah, I think we just had an Air Force jet go over us. Where are we?
We have an airport nearby,
oh, okay,
actually.
Cool, sorry.
So you get a little scenery with the park
That's
views.
my ADHD that's untreated. No.
Do we need to talk about like untreated mental health in healthcare providers? What?
I felt seen. That sucked a lot. And I know we didn't all have it figured out, but if I had to do it again, the dying alone part is what killed me, without their family. And I get it, but the reality is both of them probably had COVID too. They're living in the same house, and we were trying to protect the public. And we were using iPads. All hospitals were, right?
All the virtual visits.
And was that the right thing? Looking back, I don't know. I have a little bit of regret for, we were there, but their families weren't. And I'm sure that was hard for the families out there. I'm sure that was awful. Because losing your loved one sucks, period. But losing them and being alone and them being alone is awful.
I made it a priority any chance I got when I knew a patient was close to passing. Like, you can go sit at the nurse's station and hang out with your coworkers, and that's important to have camaraderie with your team, because your team's what you depend on. But also those patients are scared and alone. And so even though it was really painful at times for me to emotionally attach with those patients that I knew were going to pass, I made sure that they knew they weren't alone in it. And so,
You're good.
yeah, I would sit with them even when at the end and when they were in palliative. I was a big component for palliative care with it, not because I wanted bad endings, but I wanted people to have dignity and choices in that part. And so I've definitely held my fair share of people's hands as they've passed over, and it changes you, but it gives you perspective. And I like to think that that made their last moments better where it's possible, or helps their family in any way.
I know it did. I can't imagine how many are out there in a better place because of you. It feels like we're the Grim Reaper sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It's the chasm of life or the chisel. I don't know. Again, English, not my first language, it seems like, but it's a breaking point where their life is completely different, and they're not going to remember a lot of who we are besides the fact how we made them feel in some way. And it's refreshing to hear that someone else here is still doing it. I know there's tons of people out there doing it as well, and we need to stick together. This compassion in medicine in general, whether you be a police officer to a firefighter to a nurse to a physician, respiratory therapist, the list goes on. We have to keep our compassion, and unfortunately we don't work in an industry that makes it easy to do it.
And that's where it's important that we have each other, backing each other up, checking in on each other. You know, these are the people you work side by side with, and you probably see them just as much as their family sees them. I know that can really be the case in my environment. I consider them my second family, and I can tell when one of them is struggling with something, and they don't have to tell me what it is, but just letting them know that you're there if they want to talk and that they matter to you is super important. And I think that's one of the things that helps maintain the team morale and the compassion, is when they feel cared for, because let's be honest, our industry doesn't care for us. We have to care for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah. It's like the whole, you're my brother, or we're family. I hear this a lot, especially in the fire EMS industry, this camaraderie, this brotherhood we talk about, sisterhood, familyhood. But you either meet it or you don't, in my mind. And it's really easy to say it when things are good.